All right. So I am just getting in from DC, and as you can tell, I'm still dressed for that weather. I'm still reacclimating myself. And I'm here with Ahmed Baba because Ahmed's going to help me to reacclimate myself. And the first of what will be a new series that we're going to be doing, Ahmed and I, and some other people probably, um, where I get to get caught up on what's going on in America. I thought about somebody who could be there to keep watch basically while I'm doing stuff like I was in DC, which was interviewing Trump voters in sub-freezing temperatures. Um, those videos are on YouTube, by the way. This video is going to be on YouTube also. How do I get caught up on what's going on in the world? If I'm going to be on the ground so much, and I also need to stay up to date on all the things that are going on in this country. I was like, I gotta hit up Ahmed. He's the one who's gonna do it for me. If this is gonna be a pattern for me, then it's gonna be Ahmed. Ahmed, if you can reintroduce yourself to people, man. People know you as maybe they saw you as a Pennsylvania team lead. Maybe they've seen you in Action Academy, but who are you more broadly?
Well, first off, I'm going to be the person that helps you just like re-stress yourself after these trips. I'm
Yeah.
going to just update you. That's number one, just tell you everything
Okay.
that's happened.
Okay.
That's my number one role here now. But no, so I'm a journalist. As many of you know, I've done lectures within Action Academy on disinformation, and I was on the ground knocking doors with Team PA and giving some lectures there. But basically, yeah, I'm a journalist. I have a newsletter on Substack. I documented every day of Trump's first term and his when he was there the first time. And I was 24 thinking, oh, I'll just start, writing about what's happening. And then it turned into this huge column. And basically, I've just been doing a lot of work documenting this rising authoritarianism over the last 9 years or so. And here we are again. So I'm buckled in
Yeah.
and I've been paying attention to every development, writing, analyzing it, and trying to spread as much truth out here. So that's kind of who I am generally. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I mean, you're successfully spreading truth so much so that you get welcomed on to mainstream media. Go figure, right as you start getting onto mainstream media channels, they're no longer the place
Yeah,
that people
yeah, yeah. Second, I get an MSNBC bookings consistently. It's like, oh, we're selling off NBC.
MSNBC is not the place that people want to watch anymore.
Yeah.
That's all right, man. That's how they do us. That's how they do
Yeah,
us.
but I think it's coming back. I think, I think the ratings are starting to go back up now for
Okay.
everybody because of what's happening. I
Hmm.
mean, I think people are tuning back in. I mean, I can only speak for my newsletter. Like
Yeah.
signups are popping off. I think a lot of
Okay.
people are seeing like,
Where's your newsletter, man? Let's plug that.
yeah, it's on Substack. It's
Okay.
you can look it up just ahmedbaba.news or just Google me and it pops up as the first thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I think people are tuning back in and they want to see what's happening. But of course, like that's why we have to like get the signal from the noise. We have to identify what's a distraction, what is real, what matters.
Yes.
Because he's just throwing a lot of stuff out
It's
here at us, man.
everything you can, and we're gonna go into some of it because, like I said, this is to catch me up too. So some of the stuff I'm gonna be live reacting to. Um, Ahmed is not only somebody who's on major media channels, but also is pretty adept at social media. I know nothing about TikTok, bro. You're gonna have to like help me out. I refuse to
Yeah.
go into it. I was too old to adopt it early. And I know even for you, it's a little young for you, but you also understand that's where you can reach an audience. So you're on there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm on there. And yeah, I mean TikTok, like Donald just came in and saved it, I
He
guess, or
saved
they they
it.
they, they engineered a
The,
save,
the, the TikTok Lord and
and
Savior.
yeah, TikTok wouldn't save your Donald Trump, but I don't think people are really buying it. I'm seeing a lot of people on there that are like,
Yo,
they're
that
actually not
okay, we're
buying
supposed to
it.
talk about TikTok later, but
We can talk about it later, but yeah, yeah,
but
they're not
but like
buying
people
it.
they're not buying it. They're
They're
not
not buying
fooled.
it. They're not fooled. They're not fooled.
Okay, I
A lot of
love
the young
that.
people on there. It's and TikTok. It's funny. It's the modern day TV. It's like
Okay.
that's why when people were threatening to ban it, it was like you were basically saying you were going to ban cable news
Cable.
or
Yeah,
like a regular thing from
right.
your younger self, right? It's
Yep.
just how people get their information. People search on there. Young people use this, and yeah, and then so we can talk in more details about it later. But basically, I'd say it people aren't buying the stunt. Uh,
Well, let's just go with it because we're going to talk about Trump's first week in office. That's like
yeah,
the thing that we're going to talk about. But let's go with TikTok for a second. So I mean, I think that like that first statement there of like, the kids aren't buying it. That's a big deal. I think that when older people saw this, they're like, "Oh, we're doomed." We're doomed. We've lost the Gen Zers. He saved TikTok, and now I think he thinks that too. He thinks like, "Yeah, I'm locked in with the young people." But you're saying they're
yeah.
not buying it, so they're not buying it like the assassination attempt. Like as soon as it happened, people were like, "That's fake."
Well, yeah, I mean, and with this, it's like, and this will be a good segue into the executive orders too, because he
Okay,
undid all good, like they
right.
thought, okay, Trump will basically the TikTok CEO, they put up a little banner that said, "Oh, we must shut down now. We hope Donald Trump considers bringing us back," basically, even though Biden said they wouldn't enforce the ban. So it
Yeah.
was
So the time,
essentially a
yeah, exactly. So
stunt.
the TikTok timeline goes, Trump when he's in office starts to we're gonna ban it. He's like, we're gonna ban it. Biden continues that, right? And
Yeah.
then and then right before he leaves, Biden is like, we're not gonna enforce it because
And then
Congress passes it.
exactly.
Yeah. He said, I'm not gonna enforce it. So they didn't have to shut down.
They didn't have to
Then
shut down, but they
yeah,
went dark anyway,
they
would put a little
chose
message up.
they chose so this is where it starts to get to its strategery. They
Yeah.
start to go, okay, we can play with this. We can take it from people and then give it back and say that
Yeah.
it was because of Donald Trump and give him that win.
Exactly. And immediately people saw it for what it was. I posted something that it had like 2 million views, not on TikTok, but on Twitter. And I was like, I said, this,
Uh,
this is not real. And everyone was buying into it. And a lot of people agreed that this is not. And then I opened up TikTok once it came back online and people were like, this was just a stunt. And they called it
yeah.
out. And then immediately any goodwill that Trump would have had with young people was immediately dismantled because Homeboy came in on day one and just went absolutely buck wild on everything that young people care about
Hmm.
politically. So any goodwill as a savior of TikTok he would have gotten is totally gone now because he rampaged, right?
He did. Okay. So we can talk about the executive orders. The last thing I want to say on TikTok is there's a worry that they now control reality. Like that Trump has mastered. He's mastered social media and like the podcast ecosystem and that they now control messaging. I think that what they did was they beat us on those in those areas where there's no competition. Like it was a he was like running for office in that space with no opposition, and so he was the automatic. Now that we're going to be entering into that, I think that we can battle for messaging in a way that we haven't before. And also, I think that information moves much faster, and people are more used to kind of like switching around their views based on the new information they're getting from different places. So I think like to your point, those people that were immediately into him and thought that he would be the next great president are now just as likely because they bought onto him really fast. They're just as likely to switch away
Exactly.
from him so fast too.
As soon as the vibes shift and the algorithm starts to shift, like I mean, people really he really is overreached. So like immediately
Yeah.
what you're talking about with these algorithm changes and now they're controlling social media. Trump brought interestingly, he didn't bring in all these tech titans, right? He didn't bring in the entire tech industry. He didn't bring in General Electric, he didn't bring in Intel. He didn't bring in like, what I'm saying? Like he wasn't bringing in like
He didn't
random.
bring in General
Yeah, no,
Electric.
no,
That's
I'm
really
saying like
good.
he didn't bring
That's
in
good.
NVIDIA, right? The
That's like
CEO
a
of,
that's such a generational divide thing because
right?
all the
Yeah.
older people are like, yeah, you're right, he didn't. And now the younger people are like, what is General Electric?
Exactly, yeah. And it's like he didn't bring in the CEO of NVIDIA, right? One of the biggest
Oh
companies in the
yeah.
world. He brought in information infrastructure people,
Mm,
attentional infrastructure people,
yeah.
billionaires, Zuck,
Yeah.
Bezos, Amazon Prime. They all have. So Zuck, Bezos, the TikTok CEO was there. Uh, Sundar Pichai, Google was
Google.
there.
Yep.
Tim Cook was there. And they're all there at the inauguration for different reasons. You have Tim Cook who wants to probably want to get a carve out on the Chinese tariffs. You've got,
Yep.
other people, they all have their own motivations. But basically, he put it all out there in people's faces. Now, obviously, he's trying to like use them and have them control these algorithms in his favor. But for the day-to-day people, especially young people and everyone who just saw it, they saw it as the oligarchy, right? And he really put it in our faces that like, oh, I am now influencing these information spaces. I want them all to bend towards me. And now I think the backlash to that will be new voices on the opposition of that rising in these information spaces, and hopefully funding, because right-wing media is just a limitlessly funded
Yeah.
um, information force here. And that's what we're
Yeah.
up against. That's what, the pro-democracy movement is up against.
Yeah. Okay. So as you talk about social media was reacting to the TikTok thing, they called it out, but they're also reacting to the reveal of the true Trump agenda, which are these executive orders that come in. So we're not going to go through every executive order. What is your take on, so what is the signal and the noise on this first week?
I would say the key signal is that he is doing exactly what we said and warned he was going to do, right?
Okay.
It's that the people who were warning about his ties to Project 2025, that playbook, he's implementing it step by step. He's going down from
Okay.
DEI to environmental regulations
Yeah.
to the immigration, everything. And I think that is like kind of a catch-all phrase that can work for people messaging wise, because Project 2025 was really unpopular in the
Yeah.
2024 election. So I think the main thing is that, and he's reshaping America in an image of the far right, right? Like
Yeah.
broadly speaking, that's what he's doing. And he's not focused on lowering prices. And he's not focused on helping everyday people.
Hmm.
He's focused on pushing a far right agenda
Yeah.
and enriching himself with coins, meme coins.
Meme
Like,
coins, which is a whole, we'll talk about crypto
yeah,
maybe later. But
but
I
yeah,
think I think people got the general gist of it, which is bullshit. And he basically made himself rich, and scraped up a bunch of money from people who are, you know, are looking to make a way out of no way, where the financial industry has left them behind. And um, crypto was one of the few ways that people who don't have retirement accounts, who don't think Social Security is going to be there, who they can't afford a home right now. This is where they think that there's a future for themselves, and he's preying on them with these meme coins. But
exactly.
so so that's like the overarching piece, is that he is exactly who we tried to tell him that he was. Uh, what we tried to say he would do with Project 2025. He is all of these things. Um, I noticed there was some stuff in there about like lowering prices stuff, but it was like, what the classic government like do nothing, which is like
Yeah.
form a committee that will
Yeah,
explore
exactly.
high
Yeah.
prices or something like that. And it was
Yeah.
like sprinkled in everywhere. All the stuff that he wasn't serious about, that was like help common people. It was like explore, look
Yeah.
into, but
Exactly.
then the immigration stuff and all those stuff was like ban it, close it, shift money away from, cancel this. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. He just like wrote a memo. Like, who knew this was the solution to inflation? If only Biden knew, signed a memo that said all agencies will look into lowering costs, you know?
That was
Like,
it. It says look into. It
no, no, it
literally,
says like they will use the powers to lower
yeah, yeah,
costs or whatever. Just some vague, like, oh well, gosh. I
that's
wish
simple. Eh,
Biden had the capacity to do that. It's just
Well,
like,
and then on the other side, they're like, see, it's that easy.
yeah. And then meanwhile, eggs are going up because of the bird flu. And then you know what Trump does? Halts all communication on health agencies.
Oh yeah,
He did that too. And there's
he
because that
did
wasn't
that.
even an order. There's like emails being sent out as
Yeah,
well, like by the agencies on top of the orders. So there's just so much that he's throwing. But yeah, like you said, he doesn't take you could tell he's not taking cost cutting seriously, but he is taking the immigration crackdown
yeah.
seriously, eroding civil rights, not just DEI. Like there's one part of it
Mm.
that I think is super important is in the DEI executive order. He targeted an LBJ executive order from 1965. He
What?
targeted, yeah, he targeted the equal employment opportunity executive order 11246 is the number of the executive order. He targeted,
I
rolled
didn't
it
know
back.
this.
It was a key enforcement mechanism of the 1964 Civil Rights Act that LBJ signed in that prohibited uh, discrimination among federal contractors that do business with the government. So they
Oh
couldn't
wow.
have discriminatory practices when they hire, and he rolled that
Hmm.
back.
I
In
didn't
it's
know this.
it's not just DEI. He went and
So it's EEO
targeted.
hiring. Okay,
Yeah, it was basically an anti-discrimination measure. So if you want to do business with the
I
government,
know this. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
and it
you have to report like monthly or quarterly on your hiring practices to make sure that like you are giving people with disability a chance, or you're hiring people from these disadvantaged communities. You have to post your job for a while, and all these things.
he ended it.
Whoa, I didn't know that, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was yeah. So that's
Uh
one of the signals where it's like buried
okay.
in there.
Okay.
He targeted a classic L, and like I posted about him. People are like, oh, he's restoring someone, an actual black Trump supporter, influencer,
Hmm.
responded to me. It was like he's actually restoring the initial intent of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and I was like, bro, I was like, literally, he is eroding. Like, if you actually read
Yeah.
the order, and not just take his word from I was gonna say from master, but if not just like, not just go take the word of this guy,
Right, right.
then you'll see in the order he rolled back the a key enforcement mechanism of the 1964 Civil
So
Rights Act.
so this is and we could move on from here, but this piece, this is a key milestone moment where up until this point, his supporters they've gotten away with just restating rhetoric.
Hmm.
And now we get to see his actions, and they prove out what he actually believes and how much harm he's doing, and it's irrefutable. It's irrefutable. There's a breaking point here, and there's a bunch. Everyone will have their own breaking point. Like
Hmm.
crypto people are like, oh my god, he's ruining our industry, right?
Exactly.
Everyone has their breaking points on this, and they're going to slowly realize that what they thought he was is is different, but also they're not going to be able to defend him in the same
That's the
way
key.
because it's in black and white right there.
Exactly. It's now you are gonna have to stand on the merits. You can't just say, oh, he might not do what he's gonna do. When he's done the thing, and the thing that he did, your defense falls apart under the slightest bit of scrutiny, you know?
Yeah.
And I think people are gonna not be able to defend him as much, and then that helps the information war, help the people who are spreading truth push it more forcefully. If now it's becoming indefensible. You can't, Reagan thought about ending that specific executive order. He wanted to. And I actually looked back, the Heritage Foundation of all people, Project 2020 now, which now leads Project
Yep.
2025, they wrote a 1985 report that asked Reagan to roll this executive order back. And Reagan wanted to do it, but he got pushback among corporate leaders. But Donald here is now, he just did it. And it's like, especially
Wow.
with what Common Power does, you big thing, you want voting rights to happen. Well, now we got to go back and like shore up basic civil rights after
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So actually, you know what I want to do? I want to change this up. I want to move to what people can do, because I want to keep this short because we've gotten some good feedback that they like 15 minutes. People like 15 minutes. So I want to move directly to how do people what do you think people do to like parse through the deluge of all this information and pull out the pieces that are most useful? Because so you talked about signal and noise, but then like what do you do with that? That's what I'm asking. So what do you do with it? So I understand that one of the things that I've come to realize is that all information is not good information, and
Mm,
information is like food, where you there's a certain amount that you can eat, right? There's a certain amount that you can intake, and also you have to like decide on which type of food you eat. Like, you don't eat all the food that you can all the time and whatever's in front of you.
yeah.
So one, people are going to have to like choose where they go to look for this stuff and who they trust, and then is what they do with it. So first, like what are the good places to go where you think people can get some of the and it doesn't have to be comprehensive, just like name one or two where like this is where I can go to get the news that I trust.
I would say, you know, basically, if you have consistent people that you have been trusting for thus far, right? I would
Hmm.
say there are people like me out there. There are people like Vox Media and explanatory journalists and,
Okay.
Maddow and MSNBC and some people who will synthesize stuff for you, what matters. And
Hmm.
I would say go to these people for breaking it down because there's just a
Okay.
deluge of just information. So
Okay, so
go
number
to
one on
the
the list is
number one
Ahmed
is
Baba. All
Number
right.
one,
No,
yeah. Well, I didn't mean to say people like myself.
no,
Follow,
no, no. I
subscribe
think
to
it's
me.
fine. Because you, what you do, you filter that stuff through, and then you'll like tweet it out or you'll put it out on social. So I
But
think
yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
but yeah, I didn't. I
that's
shouldn't have
one.
started off with people
No,
like me.
I
What I
think
mean is like there are
no.
people who
I'm
are.
saying that then.
Yeah, yeah.
Charles
Oh,
is
thanks.
saying
Yeah.
go to Ahmed
Okay.
first. All right, and
but
then
they, but
Rachel
there,
next.
but then there are just people. There are people who are already doing this for you, so you don't have to
Okay.
sift through all of the news daily because you just take care of your mental health. There are news aggregators. I will say a good news aggregator that I use, is Smart News.
Okay.
This is a
Okay.
hack. This is a hack I'm giving y'all because I use this
Okay.
for my to help me curate my morning and evening briefings. Smart News
Ah.
gives you just like it really it's like it's pretty much algorithmic based, but you download that app and it gives you pretty much all the news you'll need from various sources
Okay.
and right there for you. Just it's not like opinion, it's just like kind of a homepage, like a almost
Interesting.
like a
Okay.
digital newspaper homepage. So that's what I would say. Find individual people that you trust
Hmm.
and journalists organizations and then get something like Smart News, an aggregator of some kind that you
Hmm.
can check out a couple times a day if you want to parse through what's happening on the day-to-day basis.
Okay.
That's what I would recommend. And then once you get that information, try to see what's real and what's not. Like what is just sign virtue, what is worth paying attention to? Like Trump renaming the Gulf of Mexico, probably just throw that out. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
don't think about that or Mount
Hmm.
McKinley or whatever. Like there's things that he does that is just trying to get you. But I would say focus on that, but also try to if you're struggling, I'd say like with your emotional state or just trying to like get
Yeah.
through this, also focus and look at the people, the enforcement mechanisms. Like look up something Trump did and then lawsuit, something that I like to do because you get to see immediately, like there's sometimes they're not reported on, but there'll be groups or states that are already suing about
Okay.
almost
So
everything that Trump does.
okay. So you're saying as a part of the way you handle this is that you don't just get the negative into your brain. You actually go a couple clicks further and you go, somebody's fighting this. Who are they? What's their take? How they fighting it? Like ACLU, right?
Exactly.
ACLU is
ACO.
immediately spitting out these
Mark
lawsuits.
Elias, Democracy
Yes.
Docket is great to
Yeah.
subscribe to too. And then obviously the Seattle, for example, already the Seattle
Yeah. The
judge, right?
Seattle,
That
the
rolled
federal
back
judge.
birthright
Yes.
citizenship. He's not a dictator, right? Taking
Right.
solace in those kind of things. Like, he also hasn't implemented the tariffs yet. Like, there's little signs where it's like, it's horrible, but he's not the autocratic figure that he wants to be yet, right?
Okay.
And there's still laws and systems in place.
Okay. So I'm gonna add one. I'm gonna say turn off your if you have a news app or something like that, turn off your notifications, your automatic notifications.
Yes,
You should go and get news. So what you're saying about smart news is like it gives you a briefing and you've got a stack of things, but you're not getting everything like all throughout the day as it hits you. Well, maybe you are because you
yeah, I
you've got
know.
to know these things. But for everybody else, do not get the like about it as soon as it hits. That will beat you down. Don't do that. We know this from the previous Trump administration actually.
Exactly.
That will
Yeah.
beat you down to the point where you can't act anymore because it feels like you're buried under it. So this is not just a like tools and tips for individuals to get through this. Like the part of the purpose of this podcast or this video series that we're doing is for our community that's going to go knock on doors. How do we
Mhm.
stay informed enough? How do we stay engaged in what's going on without being buried in it so that we can act? And so I want to close with there is something that we can all do after we've already gotten to the news, after we've figured out our diet of information. You can come knock on doors with Common Power. And we have just launched our sign up for Wisconsin. To your point about we are people are fighting back. In Wisconsin, there's a state Supreme Court race. Wisconsin is one of the most important battleground states in the country. It has been for many cycles, and it is a bellwether for national elections in a lot of ways. The
Mhm.
Supreme Court right now is controlled by us, by folks on the left, by one seat, and there's a chance to get another seat. The key there is the Supreme Court decides what the maps are drawn like in the state and is the pushback against the gerrymandering that has ruined Wisconsin. Wisconsin used to be a liberal state like Washington State, actually, like a blue state, and it was systematically dismantled. So join us. That's on our website. The sign up for that is on commonpower.org. Join us there. Ahmed, thanks for catching me up, man. I appreciate it. We'll do more
You're
of
welcome,
these.
man. Yeah, I mean, that was we barely even touched the surface, but that's the point of it, right? We
Yep.
want to just talk about the top line things, the things you should be paying attention to, the things that were a little surprising,
Yes.
and then how you manage your own mental health. Because we got to stay sane. Number one priority: maintain your sanity and your peace. Like, don't
That's
let
right.
Donald Trump like rob your peace and your joy. Like this guy,
That's right.
no,
That's right. I love that attitude. I love that attitude. Next time we talk, we are going to talk about the previous data for the elect or the newest data from the fall election. There's some truths in there that are different from the exit polls. There's some good stuff there for us to think about. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Ahmed. We'll see you soon, man. Thanks.
of course, man. Thank
All
everybody.
right.
Thanks for watching.
Take care.